Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Welcome, everybody who's watching the recording. You're very welcome. Please do comment all the time. We are open here. I have two amazing guests with me today. So first, there's Don Carmichael. He is, I think, the pre-sales guru, not only in the UK, but definitely in the UK, right? You're the owner of Winning Skills, a training organization for pre-sales. And we have the infamous, is this the right word? Bob Riefstahl. You're the founder and owner of To Win, right? And author of Demonstration to Win. Yeah, welcome both of you. I'm so honored that you are here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You're very welcome.
Patrick, brilliant. Thank you so much.
And we have an amazing topic today, right? So maybe quick news on you, Bob. I heard you're writing your third edition of, I think I have it here. That one.
You do, yeah. The third edition is in process right now. I'm in the middle of the northern part of remote United States at a lake home, writing away. Took a pause in it to do this webinar, and that should be coming out not long after the first of the year. And I also just released the second edition. Dan Conway, my partner, and I released the second edition of Rule of 24. And that's available in Amazon now. So yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Anything in your pipeline, Don, that is new?
No, I'm just honored to be invited on this kind of thing. This is brilliant, kind of streaming. And look at the mastery of the technology you've got. And what a topic. Kind of entertainment. Yeah. Yes, loving. I'm really looking forward to digging into that.
Thank you. And to the audience, please send us your comments. We are prepared. We want to hear what you think about all the acting stuff and what we talk about, if we are entertainers, not, and so on, right? And you see it with me, I'm German, right? Typically, I'm not that funny or acting or entertaining and all. I try today. So, hi, Christian, by the way, who is in the chat. Welcome, everybody. So, and I want to kick off immediately with one question. We have been in the sales engineering realm for a while, and I want to ask you two, actually, from a perspective of a sales engineer, what is acting?
Yeah, I can start. Acting, when you're in pre-sales, I view acting as much more improv. It's situational. And you look at the situation and you have the presence of mind to have some intention about how you want to handle something, or how you want to show something, or how you want to deliver a benefit. So, I like to use the example, if you're trying to make a point of somebody who has some pain in one of their processes or one of their tasks that they do, or how they spin up a cloud server or something like that. You wouldn't want to deliver the pain statement like, you know how today you can't spin up a server very easily with a smile on your face? That would be weird. You know how today you have a real problem with, right? My intention is pain. So the acting, if you will, which is kind of natural, is when you talk about pain, you have a pain look on your face. It's a simple sort of an improv thing to me, not over the top, but intentional. What do you think, Don?
Yeah. Actually, I did a kind of job. I went through some of the words we're going to use and had a look in a dictionary, because I think some of the things we're about to talk about in a minute are perhaps my and other people's misunderstanding of what the actual definition of some words are. We're going to come to what's the difference between entertainer and entertaining. But so acting is probably what you'd expect. So I'm looking at the Cambridge dictionary. So that's for, so acting, the job of performing in films or plays, but to act is just to behave differently. You know what I mean? So there's kind of a tick, and you're the one I can maybe understand why I could go, oh, I don't want to be, I'm not in a film or a play. Is that, is that insincere? Is that, is it not authentic? Is it not real? Is that causing a problem? I kind of understand that completely. So, and we have a similar problem with other words, entertainer and entertaining. But I love what you say there about kind of improv. We were talking just before we started this about I play guitar, there's a thing I get when I'm presenting, which is an energy flow, backwards and forwards. And when I'm not presenting to live audiences, I don't get it. And especially as we went into the virtual world, it's much harder to get that energy. It just seems to come across. When we're live face to face, I don't know what it is. Some particles in the room that are moving around and kind of energizing things, and you feed off each other. So because I'm not getting this live, I take my guitar and I go and play in pubs in kind of open mic nights where I only have to play kind of 1 or 2 songs. But as long as I'm playing the right songs and people recognize it and they sing along to it, there's an energy thing that's happening there. And there's kind of an act to it as well. And it's a connection as well. And this seems to be quite essential for a lot of people who are doing this. It's acting. We're going to come on to whether this is entertaining.
Yeah, let's come to William, right? So William wrote in the chat, acting is actually presenting based on a script. As per your definition, right? That's completely the case. So that's very pre-sales or sales engineer, right? So presenting based on a script sounds like a demo. We prepared this, right? We have a flow, we have a plan maybe, right? Yeah. When is your next show? Tell us when you're on stage again.
I only play locally. I think it's very you can come along if you want, because that's one of these things you don't know who you're playing to. It's got to work. Yeah. But so what is acting? Yeah, William's got it there. Great. Definition I saw: the job of performing in films or plays, which is quite a precise definition, isn't it? But to act is just to behave differently in a different way. So So we're going to come up with some of these things that there's across some definitions and a tick on others. And there's a kind of balance going on here about what you understand, what it is that you're doing.
May I show you something? Let me show you a screen. Let's take this one. So I did a little vote on LinkedIn. So 237 responses asking, do pre-sales or sales engineers, do they need to be entertainers? Right? Do they have to be? And 70% said absolutely they have to. What's up here? What does that mean?
Yeah, the fact is, and it's even harder in a virtual world, but we do need to entertain to a degree, right? Within the confines of the professional environment that you're in, the culture of the company you're working with, the culture of the country you're in, entertaining is an accordion, if you will. It expands and contracts based upon that audience. And in a virtual world with virtual demos, that's why it's so important to try and get people to go on camera. And when you're in the midst of the demo and you've just finished a demo topic, so you just did a tell, show, tell on a demo topic, and somebody asks a question or something comes up, and you're delivering the benefit. What a great time to get the software off the screen and have everybody on camera. Because now you can entertain a little bit in terms of how you deliver, for example, the benefit and the context for the next demo topic, based upon, again, the audience, based upon what your intention is for this next topic and all those elements. The camera becomes really important in how you sort of manipulate, if you will, the environment so that when you do entertain, it's received.
Yeah. This is great. So I jumped in.
That's great. Can we take Christian's point and then we get yours done? I like this a lot. Christian, hi, actually. He says, are we not all storytellers? And stories are in fact a mechanism to entertain someone. So let's replace someone with a client. What do you think about that? And also maybe one more question behind there. Let me get into that, because this was an answer to the poll I showed you. Someone said it's actually insulting to act in front of a customer.
Yeah.
I find this so very strong. There's a lot of emotion in this, right? What do you think about that correlation?
So,
like storytelling to entertain and insulting.
Who's on this, you should know that now is like a core behavior, core skill set for all of us, is the ability to storytell. Now, sometimes, you can sometimes go look at storytelling and people come up with all these rules and that kind of thing. And you kind of need to break that down, because sometimes people make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. Sometimes just an analogy, hey, let's kind of, it's Google quick and Facebook easy. Do you know what I mean? I think, Bob, you might have even said that. So storytelling is key. I mean, there's a great statistic comes from the book Made to Stick, which I know, Bob, you're a big fan of, as both of us, which is 63% of people remember stories you tell, but only 5% will remember statistics. So, and stories are actually built into us as humans. You may not know this, but I'm a great student of kind of human evolution and paleoarchaeology. And research is basically telling us, where language comes from. Language comes from the ability to tell stories, because we had to tell stories as hominids as we were kind of developing in Africa on the plains, because it was a way of creating joint identity and creating communities and clans, doing things together, shared history. And if we could do things together, that's what stories drove us to do, we could protect ourselves. Could it go back to the end? Got a bigger answer. Could it go back to the entertainer and entertaining thing, Patrick? Just that, because one of the things that's going on here is the definition of words. So now, if you enter the dictionary definition of entertain is this, okay? To keep a group of people interested or enjoying themselves. Now, hopefully everyone would tick a box and say, yeah, that's good. Yes, of course, interested and enjoying themselves, yeah. Now, the definition of an entertainer is someone whose job it is to entertain people. An example they give is by singing, telling jokes, etc. So there's an issue here, which is the word entertainer. I mean, am I now more entertaining? or perhaps, am I more entertaining if I wear this? Are you, is this appropriate to have this hat on? Is it more, you're going to remember?
I thought that's your daily outfit when you go shopping. No?
Exactly, yeah, this is pretty normal to me.
When you play guitar,
So is this more entertaining? Is it going to work? Is it appropriate?
I love it.
Need talking about.
Got the point. And it might be inappropriate, right?
Within the bounds of the culture of the company and in the environment. The thing with storytelling, one of the things that we teach with storytelling is don't think about storytelling as only this, big opening story at the beginning of a demo that sets the theme for the demo that you revisit. It's one of the things we teach in Demo to Win, and I think probably a lot of people on the call have been through that course. But there's a lot of places that stories work really well in pre-sales. A situational story at the front end of a demo topic that sounds like, here's the situation. You're trying to do this, and it's a situational story. It's a short story, but that's part of also entertaining the audience, because it gives them something to touch, mentally. So it's a little bit more sticky than next I'm going to show you. There are times where you should just say, next I'm going to show you. You're in the midst of a script and there's 140 items. Sometimes you have to go through the script pretty fast. But in key points, in certain places where you have some opportunity for differentiation, you've got opportunity because this is going to be really important to them. That's a place for a story. And now they'll remember it. And so is that acting? Yeah. Is that entertaining? Absolutely. But it's not weird or over the top. It's appropriate for that moment. So, if you are a real energized person, you probably at times find you have to dial yourself back. If you're a little bit more, like Don, you're very entertaining. You probably find sometimes you got to dial it down a little bit. I tend to be a little bit flatter, and I find I have to dial it up a little bit, and it's all within the bounds of your personality, the environment you're in. All of that becomes part of acting and entertaining in our role in pre-sales.
Yeah.
I've actually got, if I can tell a story, because when we kind of rehearsed this, we did rehearse it. I actually have an incident when I was actually doing proper pre-sales rather than just talking about it these days. I was in a warehousing presentation, and got warehouse the manager was to my right-hand side and a mixed audience in front of me. And the thing was, I was very well practiced at this demo. I'd done it a lot of times. I could put lots of stories in there. I got jokes. I was slick. I was super slick. What I hadn't done was I wasn't watching the body language of the person that I should have been aiming this at, which was the warehousing manager. So we got to a break, and luckily I was working with an amazing salesperson who's gone on to do amazingly well in other places. And he took me aside at the break, and he said, "You're going to dial that back." He said, "It's just the humour thing. It might work with some people. It's absolutely not working with her. You're frightening her." Okay, she thinks you're not real. You're insincere. You're not authentic. Is that this is a risk to her. It's a real worry. Is it putting humour in it is not working for her at all. You have to dial the whole thing back. And I was like, wow, I didn't spot that at all. That was a major life lesson. Oh, but by the way, this particular salesperson as well, he passed the big test I give of salespeople is ask for the order. I test all salespeople I work with I used to hate working with salespeople who wouldn't ask for the order, wouldn't close it down. So I said, right, ask for the order, even though, we weren't at a closing thing. And this person was amazing. He said, yeah, of course he will. So he asked for it. And the client said, well, okay, that's a bit forward. We're a bit early for that. We need to do steps 1, 2, and 3 before we get there. But okay, I admire your enthusiasm. And I was like, wow. Yeah. I love working with salespeople like that. He passed the test straight away.
By the way, I love Helena's comments. Stepping out of your shoes to step in someone else's shoes. Spot on.
That's amazing,
right?
Yeah.
And
I think I told you
that way is important. Yeah, Go ahead.
Sorry. No, just we talked about this background very quickly about the book that I'm reading right now of Stella Adler, a actress coach. And it's amazing because acting is for her exactly that. So stepping out of your shoes and someone else's, it's your mindset. It's your, how do you envision the client, for example, if we are in pre-sales, and how you transfer the energy. How do you transfer the belief, your belief, into someone else, right? And this needs acting skills, right? So there's the other question of why it, I think. Why it was it? And I think Elvin has a similar point, like, is it unauthentic if I do that? Is it?
I think it's very authentic. If you do,
because we try to convince, right?
It's the classic example of you found out in discovery, either ahead of the demo or right then in the moment of the demo, you found out this is the situation they're dealing with, the challenge that they have, the problem they have, or what they're trying to accomplish. So it's a matter of what you're really doing is you're being a good listener and reflecting back what you heard in the form of your demo topic when you do your opening tell to provide the context of what you're about to show them. It kind of sounds like, oh, okay. So if I heard you correctly, what you need to be able to do is, well, let's look at that, and so you're stepping, just like she said, you're stepping into their shoes. And to do that, you do have to reflect and show that you're active listening and act a little bit, it's what you're doing. I mean, here's a good way to put it. If you show up at a child's birthday party and you're actually engaging with the children, you're not going to engage with the children the way you would engage with the adults in the next room. You're acting a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. Right.
Yeah.
we naturally, everybody does that. Everybody shifts. If you're angry with somebody, if you need, everybody changes and adapts to the environment that they're in. And in the demo, that's really what we're doing.
So, but what is unauthentic behavior then? What is not good acting? So because we all adjust, right? If I'm in front of a C-level, I'm a different person than in front maybe of a developer when I explain the product. There's naturally more psychological air, more freedom. I can act in another way, right? If you're not used to, depends a bit. So you overact your inner nervousness or something like that, right? We always act in that way.
Here's a great example of being inappropriate. You're with an executive who is they're in an amiable mode. Okay. Maybe they're generally an amiable style leader. They like to get the group to agree on things. They're big on their people, that type of thing. And you come in with much more of a driver approach. This is what you should do. You should do this. Your people should do, that's over the top, obviously, but you come in with more of a driver approach. Inappropriate. Even if you think you need to do that to dial up and you're a salesperson to hit a quarterly number or something like that, it's not going to work. It's going to come off as disingenuous and inappropriate. That executive executives, period, expect you to adapt to their mode and their style, right? Their people do, and they do. So it's important to make those adaptations.
Just go off a little tangent here, because there's actually someone will know the name of it, so please put it in comments. There's a tool on LinkedIn that will actually look at someone's LinkedIn profile, and one of the things it does is I think it's the disc thing, which is Google it. Google it. Not now, Google it later, because we're doing a live stream now. And it will actually kind of, it has 4 dimensions of what a person's like. Are they direct? Are they consultative? Collaborative? And actually,
wait a minute. Do they know what prescriptions I'm taking?
Yeah, but that's important, because that feeds to what you just said there, is that you can actually maybe learn a little bit of what they're going to be like by the language they use on LinkedIn, how they're going to, when you actually get, which is all great, because this is all part of the outside-in discovery thing, which is, we're getting less time to do any discovery with people. So the more tools you have at hand, the more you can make use of things like kind of LinkedIn to maybe predict or anticipate how you should communicate with them, the better.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what's out there, right? I like this question. Maybe you can answer that. I don't see the name, sadly. But what if we thought about it as infotainment?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Can you look it up and down in your dictionary? What's the meaning of infotainment?
So I think this kind of comes from a kind of mixed advertising. You get pieces, don't you, that are in infotainment, or there's advertorials and things like that, isn't there? That's a great thing. By the way, well done to whoever changed their name by deed poll to LinkedIn user. Right behind you. I'm such a big, massive LinkedIn user. I might actually put it as one of my middle names. So,
maybe he left the stream and the name got replaced. I'm not sure why it doesn't show it. Yeah. Okay, there's one more question from Wyatt, maybe. If you're not displaying excitement for the product, why would the prospect be excited?
Yeah. Or my version of it, if you're not passionate about the solution and its outcomes, no one else will be passionate.
But are you always passionate when you roll out of your bed, right?
Exactly.
You fall down, and then you need to into the client meeting, and you're...
There's no doubt, right. I mean, you need to be passionate about the product, but it's also important to dial it up and dial it down, like variation. Otherwise, people feel like you're almost shouting at them all the time. And that's an exaggeration, obviously. But if you're too excited all the time, there's going to be people in the audience that go, because people need space.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to have some pauses when you go from one topic to another in a demo, for example. People need a little bit of space. And when you switch from topics, all of a sudden you go to something that it's not about what you're passionate about, but what you believe they would be passionate about. Like, you're on a topic now where you're going to go through a use case that is going to be a home run. You know it from discovery, and it's differentiating. Yeah, absolutely. You better be passionate about that moment. And then you go into something that's a little bit more mundane, but necessary to show. You go through it and you present it. It's not that you're mundane about it, but that's the time to tone down a little bit too. Is that acting? Yeah. But after a while, it becomes a little bit of just how you do it.
But isn't this the same for an actor? They first train it, and afterwards it's just nature. They envision something and they can play it. I have one story that I want to quickly, make this a bit up here, right? So there are those two boxers. They're in a fight. And the question, and I correlate this to pre-sales, right? So one is maybe the client, the other is the pre-sales. And you have kind of conversation, showing your product, right? And then there's maybe some offensive question by the client. And let's assume we're in the boxing ring again. So we get this fist in our face, right? And this is the power, like a car crash, like being in a car crash. That's amazing, right? So, and what does a boxer do actually? The boxer that got hit will never, ever, ever, ever show that this thing hurt. Because if he would have lost immediately, the other guy would have all the power, right? He would go over the opponent and be the winner. And I think this draws, this is for me a very good analogy to pre-sales. Like, if I got hit, I will act over that. I will stay professional, even though there was someone offensive, for example, right? Or there was a question, I'm not sure about how to handle that, right? What does it mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what we teach in objection handling, and question handling, which is especially objection handling, where they hit you pretty hard with a challenge, an issue, an objection. Okay. Yeah. You need to absorb the punch. One of the best ways to do that is just take a moment, and instead of reacting to what they said or reacting to what they asked, just take a moment, think about what they said, and then reflect it back to them. Let me make sure I understood you correctly. If you don't mind, I'd like to reflect what I thought I heard. And you reflect that back to them. That, if somebody has an objection or they're passionate about something, that is a fantastic way to diffuse the situation, because they now know you're listening to them. And the beauty of that is it gives you an amazing number of mental cycles to start to formulate and ask some questions back to dissect this objection, make sure you understood it completely, and then decide what you want to do with it. Do I respond to it? Do I set it aside? Do I tell a story around how I go around this? So great image. And that's, we're in pre-sales and sales faced with that all the time.
Yeah. No, I love this. Objection handling is a great topic because it also is acting because what we fear is the rejection, right? So it's not the objection of the client. We immediately feel rejection. That's a big thing with objection handling, because you need to have the emotional control to actually ask the question you ask, right? So this comes first, like break, pause. Where's my script? What do I need? How can I understand what you just said, right? I think there is the acting part in objection handling in some way. Absolutely. Do you agree?
There's a really interesting thing here with objection handling, because there's actually a large overlap with negotiating, which may not be that obvious, but it's that first thing. Is actually the very first thing you need to do is handle your emotions, because digging into all these things, you realize that your first response, there are all these body chemicals, and it's kind of fight, flight, and freeze response, and managing your own body and how you react to this. It's kind of stressful thing. The same thing in negotiation. You're kind of trying to fight against it. So in negotiation stuff, it's first of all manage yourself, and then you've got these you've got these tools that sit behind it, which are to do with things like value exchanges. Objection handling, I'll tell you what, I'll give you something for free because you're all on here. So I too have a objection handling course. So for free, here's a model to quickly use. So it's kind of similar, I suppose. Most people are going to do objection handling. So it's called pitch. It's got 3 eyes in it. So it goes pause, look, show interest, show empathy, not just sympathy, because we'll come back to this word, what empathy really means. How can you do that? The second I is intent, search for the intent, which is all about questioning skills. The third I is actually to do with what makes objection handling different for pre-sales SEs that it does for salespeople, is that because you need to understand very quickly and at 100 miles an hour what the implications are of what's about to happen next. Because if you try and jump straight in and try and answer it, you might force yourself in a situation. You've got a 10-minute demo for someone who's kind of user operational level. The classic kind of, can you show me how user security works? When in the same meeting, you've got someone who's a kind of line of business head who's not in the slightest bit interested. So one of the important things is to work out what's going to happen next. T stands for tell, and all these models are the same. And the last bit would be check. You actually answered the question. So pitch, P-I-I-I-T-C-H, very similar to other people's kind of models that you can do there. But I wanted to kind of search that word empathy, though, because what you that empathy thing could be seen as acting as well. Is it, how much can you empathize? Not quite the same as sympathize. Is that you're trying to understand what do they emotionally feel by this, what language they're using. There's actually quite a lot going on there, and I think that's got overlaps with acting as. Are we acting as if we're empathetic?
Yeah, I think we should be, right? So there's a question from you. Just
I love this question or this statement. This is brilliant. She's absolutely right. There's nothing worse than bad acting. If you're a bad actor, don't act. Yeah.
But the big question: why am I not comfortable? Let me ask this. I like the situation. The statement is great.
Yeah, I for example, I think to her point, if you were going to open the demo, the salesperson did their thing, and now you're going to open up your portion of the demo, and you wanted to do a little skit, a little acting skit that takes them through the biggest problem they have today and your solution to it. If you aren't very good at those type of things, I wouldn't do it. I've seen them go bad, and they go really bad when somebody's not very good at it. I would take a different approach. I would probably, you could still use some form of theme, and you could still take them through the situation, but I wouldn't do it as a skit, as an example. Then it's unauthentic to do that. So, I think she makes a great point.
Can I just add that, because there used to be a really interesting software industry story about this, what was it, selling to airlines? And every single company who was selling software to airlines would have a thing that they'd all walk in, and they already had kind of airline uniforms on and badges and things, and they all thought they were being unique, and all thought they were doing the persona thing. And what they didn't realize is all the other software companies are doing exactly the same thing, and it didn't go down very well the first time they saw it.
That's
all
a great
the car companies, all the automobile companies around the world are all doing that too. Because if you notice, all of them that have autonomous driving, some form of autopilot, AKA what Tesla's done, every one of those ads, at some point in the ad, you see the driver do this. They're driving and they go in slow motion and they put their hands down. Every one of them does that, right? Bad acting.
Yeah. That's cool. And in place to Robert, thanks for your input, Robert. He also says acting and empathy go hand in hand. And I think there's something very true. Otherwise, you can't transport energy, right? If you don't feel in the other person's pain or whatever you want to solve, it's tough, right, to get this across. Yeah. So you need empathy. Exactly. Great one. I love this discussion.
There's some brilliant comments there. They're fantastic. And I'm loving this technology, the fact that you can draw them in so we can all see them and discuss them.
Yeah.
This is brilliant.
I have one question that I've thought about. So the following situation. We are pre-sales. And it's now about believing in the product, right? Being authentic. What I like to ask is like, when I gave you the money to buy your company, would you do that? Right? And the intent is really to understand, do you truly believe in your product? Do you truly believe in what you're doing there? Right? What do you think about this question? Is this appropriate, or does it get to the point? What do you think?
Well, I think it gets to the point, and it's appropriate in the right places, the right environments, right? Some it wouldn't be. Just again, this is all about reading the room and reading the audience and understanding the culture of the company, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Don,
no, if a pre-sale says, I'm not sure if I'm authentic, I'm not sure if my product, if I believe, right, in my product, yeah, because there's a big point on acting. Like, this is also what I heard last time, is like, we want to be trusted advisors as pre-sales, but with one product, how much of a trusted advisor can we be if there's just one thing you can buy from us, right? I'm exaggerating a bit, yeah. But this question, I think I would ask a pre-sales who says, I'm not sure if I know that I trust if I don't know if I trust my product, right? I would ask them, would you buy your company? Would you run it? I think this is
yeah, especially, you know, sometimes, you know, everything's changing so fast, isn't it? And, you know, if you've got a minimal viable product out there, you know, you're stretching yourself, can be stretching into, you know, a new industry, a new domain. You probably know it's not the best, but, well, the other thing is you have to take into account, this isn't just about the software, what the software does, it's everything that wraps around it.
Yeah.
Your credibility in this industry, it might be minimal viable product now, but you've got these great development plans to do things that no one else can do. It could be, you know, the services that wrap around it, the ecosystem that wraps around it. It's not just about, you know, you look at the software and the ones and the zeros, because remember, that's what we're selling. I love telling people that. You do know we're selling ones and zeros. Very expensive zeros, because that really gets like the discussion about what exactly is selling then. Yeah, because is that it? You go, yeah, the bottom of it is really it, isn't it? And you don't even own them. You know, you do know that you don't own the software. It's not even running on your hardware either. You know, there's these ones and zeros that are kind of floating off over there. So, but yeah, that's the thing about, you know, you've got to be passionate about it, because people will detect that. You know, if that's acting, a level of acting, then that's got to be there. You've got to be passionate. You know, if they're going, yeah, you know, I wouldn't buy it yet, I'd kind of maybe leave it till version 2. There is a story, by the way, about Oracle, which I don't know if this is true. Put it in comments if it is true. That there was no Oracle version 1 database, because Larry quite correctly decided no one buys version 1.0. So the very first version of Oracle was version 2. If that's true, very good. Yeah, brilliant.
2.3, right?
Larry, I tell you what, Larry was a great actor on stage. He had one mode, driver mode, for sure. But he built quite a company.
Are we learning to act when we go into sales engineering or pre-sales?
Oh, I think a lot of people are, especially if you came out of a role of consultant or out of the industry that the software is servicing or training or something like that. You're going to have to change how you do things a little bit and learn to act a little bit. Absolutely. What do you think, Don?
I was going to be really brutal about this, which is
no, not you,
not me, no, because we've talked before about kind of splitting down what is the role, and there's kind of maybe like a third of it is your own technology, a third of it is your knowledge of the industry, the domain. So not just industry, but, you know, like if it's DevOps, have you got a background in DevOps and value and the outcomes? But a whole 1/3 is your people and communication skills. So in the old days, and probably still now, a lot of people may have come from like a consulting or developing a more technical background, but certainly if it was a consulting and implementation background, you've got more time to build relationships with people. The pre-sales can be very different from that. It's brutal. It's you have to build immediate rapport, and remember, rapport is now built in the social world on your LinkedIn profile as well. So people are making a mind up about you before they've even met you, which is really scary these days. But
it's scary if they can't find you. That's scary.
Yeah, if you can't, yeah, which is happened to me just recently.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I'll be brutal about it. If you don't learn to enjoy that first part of it, kind of building rapport, authenticity. It's kind of scary meeting people for the first time. I completely get that. If you're not enjoying that and it's not changing for you, can I be brutal? You might be in the wrong job. Yeah.
Well, it's different, and it's a different role, right? Because if you're in consulting or training or out of the industry, you didn't have an audience on the other side that you had to convince quite as much as you do now. It's a different dynamic. It's bigger than people realize. And all the people on this call that are in pre-sales recognize this. But at times doubtful. A lot of people have been burned by demos that didn't have good delivery behind it. So there's a lot of bruises and scars out there, and we have to shepherd people through a good experience, starting with the demo. And it is absolutely true that prospects and clients are judging what their implementation and their longer term experience is going to be based upon how the demo goes and how all of you work together in the demo, including how you and the salesperson or you and your teammates work together in the demo. Yeah. So part of that acting is you're not alone. This is the team working together and working that script and the play, if you will, together. By the way, I saw a note from my old friend Paul Newsom. Paul, good to hear you.
Hey, Paul.
Paul is here. This is his comment. Acting could be just behaving differently to your normal persona, i.e. being a little dramatic or overemphasizing when presenting, right? You remain authentic, but also don't fall into the trap of being cheesy. Cheesy, I hear this word very often. Great comment.
I'm just wondering if that translates for people with English as a second language.
Yeah, Käsig. This was German. It reminds me of something I experienced in deals. Like there was when this went good, right? We had a great first meeting, and then energy comes into the team, right? So the AE, the SE, the customer success people, everyone is like, "Wow, let's go on the next call," right? And we are so prepared, and they love us, and we love them, and it's also great. Is this where we go into a danger zone of being Käsig, so cheesy?
Well, here's another example of when you need to, as Paul put it, dial it up a little bit or pick yourself up a little bit. I mean, I can't imagine anybody on this web hasn't been in a situation where right before you went into a demo, on a virtual call or what have you, that something bad happened right before that. You were in an argument that morning with somebody. You had something happen on the ride in. You just had a really bad call with your boss, or something really negative just happened right before you went into this demo. You better believe you're having to dial up your personality and kind of change where your mental space is based upon something that just happened to you, because you've got to perform right now. There's not a choice.
Yeah.
People are counting on you. I'd be curious if anyone has never had a bad circumstance before they actually had to get onto a call,
Yes. And I think that plays along these lines for what Nancy says. She asks, actually, right? Being passionate about solving their challenges and provide value should not require acting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what's inside of you.
You're in the wrong job if it does, because that's a core, a core part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure that probably don't quite cut it in my view. Yeah. Well, so that's Nancy. What is it? Is it belief? Is it a bigger set of words that are around that? So
let's give her a moment to answer.
Yeah.
Well, I think she's right. Just being passionate doesn't get you anywhere. Any more than just being empathetic doesn't get you anywhere. Any more than just being interested in solving someone's problem It's the combination of all of it is what brings it home, and being able to blend all of that in the appropriate way at the appropriate times, for sure. In my view,
I think she's very provocative. Nancy is very provocative here, like saying what we said, like you need to act in those situations, like dialing up and down your desire, your passion, right? She says it doesn't require acting. That's what I understand from her point of view. And I find this really interesting, right? And this is what I saw also in the poll I did. There is this two sides, right, who fight over each other. No, it's not acting because it's insulting, right? We shouldn't act. Where the other side says it's passion, right? It's who I am. I'm authentic, and there seems to be something about the word act. I don't know, right?
Yeah,
this is how I understand Nancy.
Yeah. Well, and I think my guess is Nancy's pretty good naturally.
Yeah.
She's a great listener. She takes information that people deliver to her. She shapes that information in the appropriate way. She's good in front of a group. They like her. She works well with people. She's got a natural gift. I found I had to learn it.
Yeah, me too.
And not all of it. I mean, of course, I have some natural skills, but there are certain things like empathy I had to learn. Because I'm not a real empathetic person, generally speaking. I've had to learn that over time.
May I go deeper on that?
Yeah. Can I just say, I'm a lot more boring in real life. I'm sorry.
You're not.
I am, I'm afraid. Yeah.
I want to ask you a question, because that correlates with what we discussed. Are you two introverts or are you extroverts?
Oh, that question. I think that question is probably, I don't know, 30, 40 years old. I mean, I've been in pre-sales 30 years. Bob, I
wanted an answer, not an explanation.
Yeah,
You're a real pre-sales. Please answer.
Well,
I test as an introvert.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, it used to be that we would just explain it away and say, we come from mostly technology backgrounds or, kind of an expertise thing where you would naturally find introverts and you have to force yourself to be an extrovert. But I don't think, I'd love to hear what Bob says. I don't think it's anywhere near as simple as that.
It isn't, but I do think that we all have a certain tendency. I'll give you an example. I can do a keynote speech in front of 800 people. Yeah, I'm nervous, but I'll feed off the energy of the crowd. So you go, wow, he must be an extrovert. But the night before, when they have their big cocktail party, this is back in the days when you used to actually have in-person sales kickoffs, I'm a mess. I can't walk through the room and introduce myself to people and jump into conversation. I'm totally fearful of that.
That's introversion.
I test as an introvert.
Yeah. And if you ask people, so this was another LinkedIn poll that I did just before the show, asking, well, are you an introverted person working in sales? Most people say yes, right? It's nearly 50%. And then there are people who say, actually, I changed. I was an introvert, but sales changed me. This was actually where I wanted to go. Can I change that? And really, just a little portion of people said, no, I'm an extrovert. And some don't believe in the separation, right? Which is fair. But it's a great point. And I think it drives, again, towards acting. Because if I do things like that now in front of a camera, I might not be the person that wants to sit on the sofa and read a book, right? And be alone. Like what an introvert like me likes to do. And think about it and write books. The thing
about that
right?
poll was only 18% of the people said they were extroverts.
Yeah. So my audience or my people in my LinkedIn are mostly sales engineers. So
right.
Yeah.
See, I kind of look at it that probably a lot of us are going to measure as introvert if you're going to do that. But you can turn it on. You can switch it on to be more extrovert. I know, because I've been doing this a very long time. I know it costs me a lot of energy, to be extrovert, to be more outgoing. So I can turn it on, and I can turn it off, but I'm exhausted afterwards because I'm having to work so hard to do it. But at least I know I'm doing that and I'm prepared for that. And by the way, I totally with what Bob said is if you like a 2-day course or something like that, people the day before you might be used to be in the same hotel. They'd probably book your room in the same hotel as everyone else, and then go, hey, we've got a drink and all that stuff. And you absolutely never do that because you need to preserve your energy. And preserve your energy and get your head in the right place to kind of kick things off. Very high energy, bang.
Yeah, no.
Be entertaining.
I'm going to have fun with people.
If it's a 2-day thing, the intervening the second night, that's great. I can do it then, but not the first night. Yeah. What is it they say? If you're not nervous about these things, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with you if you're not nervous about them. And it may be back to remember the story I told you about me demonstrating a warehousing system. Is that the problem is that I was far too practiced. I'd got it script. I didn't even need a script. I was just kind of I tell a joke at this point, and I wasn't engaging or interacting with the audience enough to be able to kind of switch it around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Julia actually proves our point, right? So she also thinks that introvertism comes from the nature of our profession, which is mostly tech engineers, right, and in technology. Might be, right? Who knows? At least 50%. If you look at the data, the distribution, introverts are about 50% of the population, right? Yeah. There's just a big question: is it, or does our culture see extroverts being something better, or outgoing, more risk taking, all this kind of stuff, right? Don't know.
The extrovert thing is really interesting because maybe like if you're in sales, is it expected that you measure as, or you can be tested as extrovert just to be able to do the job in the first place? Is there something going on? Which is really interesting because if you're now tracking what's happening with technology sales, we almost want the opposite now. Is it they're starting to kind of converge more on our skill set and a more consultative approach. And maybe things like Challenger, which truly changed a lot of things in the kind of last 10 years, the way we think about things. But that means more of a consultative approach eventually, once you get past the conflict bit at the beginning. But well, yeah.
I just wanted to say, right? You need a bit of extrovertism and acting to get the Challenger done, right?
Yeah, it was like,
well, I mean, that's the whole. That's the whole theme that Dan and I had in the book Rule of 24, which was this whole idea that, and I think this has a lot to do with why pre-sales has become such a spotlight has gone on pre-sales so much of late, is because buyers' behaviors have changed how salespeople have had to interact with customers. The days of the big sales methodology, and you are going to put your thumb on these people and you're going to control the sales process, and these are the gates and this is what you're going to do. Meanwhile, the people on the other side who are buying, and we all do this, by the way, are going, yeah, no, here's what we're going to do here. I need to see this, and this. Show it to me, right? A lot of demos are that way anymore. That's one of the reasons why it's so important from a pre-sales perspective, that role has become so important in organizations, because that's where the sale is happening now. It used to be people would say, well, the only thing a demo can do is lose a sale. People actually used to say that all the time. Sales VPs would always tell me that, I of course didn't agree, but you kind of go along. These days, the demo can make the sale. And especially when you handle the situations well and you dial up your passion where you need to, appropriately. You go in their shoes and work through the challenges and through their list. Ask them a few questions before you start showing software. It's just working it, right? We're working it a lot different now, and we talk about that a lot in the book, Rule of 24. we're working it differently than we used to 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And it's important to the world recognizes that. And pre-sales is out front for this. You guys are doing a great job.
Could I just mention some research recent research from Trust Radius about this, and they looked at what content is most wanted, most influential by buyers, and is kind of supplied by kind of tech vendors. And what's absolutely fascinating with it is the most influential, most wanted is three things by tech buyers: trials, interesting, okay, demos, and peer reviews. So maybe things like not just a case study, but like G2, Capterra. Demos right up there. And I always read that is that it's not just the demo; it's access to us is really important, because we should change our job title. I keep saying this, to the person you actually wanted to speak to, because you didn't want to speak to a BDR when you hit the boot me a demo button. You didn't want to speak to the AE. They're just gating access to us.
You want to speak to somebody that really knows the insides of this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the opposite end of this kind of four-quadrant kind of Boston Matrix thing is what's the least influential, least trusted, and this is going to hurt. You ready for this? It's going to really hurt, which is whatever it says on your vendor's website and whatever the AE said. Ow! But that just reflects what you said, Bob, is that they actually want it as us. They want us. We are in an amazing position now, which is probably why there's a lot of companies now recruiting more pre-sales SEs than they are salespeople.
Well, I would guarantee you, almost everybody on the call has the same opinion when they go to buy something. Right? We go to buy something. The way we buy things now is we look at peer reviews. We want to see how it works. We want to see a video of how something works. A consumer product even. We want to get our own experience. We aren't really all that interested in having a salesperson talk to us unless we know that salesperson is really on top of it and they're really product educated. And boy, do we get turned off fast when they aren't. So yeah, our personal experience. That's what our buyers are doing too. That's why it's all changed.
Yeah. I love it.
That's amazing. And then I think one more point will go on your list and this will be, is the expert also? So I want to see the expert in action maybe when I research them, right? Before I go on the first discovery call with the pre-sales, I want to look them up on whatever, YouTube, LinkedIn, a podcast. I want to hear their voice, maybe understand what is their opinion. And if I have this, I'm actually set up in a more competitive way than any other solution engineer from another organization, right? So
yeah, and this is a plug for your book, by the way. Patrick, he's got a book that talks about it. Everybody should read that book. It's terrific.
Yeah,
that would be an honor. Yeah, thank you. Back to the main question. So, should sales engineers be actors or entertainers? So, please, we have 2 more minutes. Don, 1 minute, and Bob, 1 minute. As a summary, what do you think?
The 2 words: within reason, appropriately. How about that?
Okay.
Agree completely. It's all about within the bounds of the situation you're in, the people you're working with, the culture of the company, the culture you're in. Some countries it's appropriate, some it's not. Some situations it is, some it isn't. But in all cases, being passionate about your product and being forthright about showing that passion in the right places, like your differentiators, is super important. Right? If you're not excited about this particular area, why should they be?
Yeah,
absolutely agree. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you for this great summary. I only would add the thing.
Patrick, thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Nice format. Thank you, Paul.
Hey, Paul. Thank you.
Get your energy up, right? So show it to your clients that you care. And sometimes, you need to just wear a hat and everything is good. I love it.
All right.
Good. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you if you watched the recording. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Bob. It was a pleasure having you here. Maybe we can repeat this with another great topic. I really enjoyed that. Your wisdom is like, it's amazing. Okay. with that, yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Follow the Phoenix.
Patrick,
Follow the YouTube channel. Cheers. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.